Welcome back to WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca here in the Monterey Hills of California. We're about an hour south of San Francisco. It's a beautiful part of the world. I don't need to tell you, we're just right across the way from Pebble Beach Golf Course, the famous Pebble Beach, and Carmel by the Sea, and Monterey, the aquarium, you name it, it's all here. And of course, Laguna Seca fits perfectly into that because it too has a storied history of fantastic motorsport. And we look forward to our next category, which will be the HTA, the Historic Trans Am. And this is a very special occasion for us because, of course, Trans Am made its name here in the late 60s with the likes of Mark Donohue and George Foreman and many others. And so it's part of our storied history. Let's head down to Ben Sissel. He's down on the grid.
Ladies and gentlemen, here we are. This is called the Trans Am SpeedFest at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. I work for the current Trans Am series presented by Pirelli, but by far my favorite race group is this historic Trans Am group where it all began. We just talked to Peter Gregg. There's his car, the Bud Moore. These cars raced in the Trans Am series, the exact cars. 1966 to 72, the Roy Woods Javelin, driven by Roy Woods, but today driven by Ken Epsman. Beautiful cars with a ton of history as we come back here. The Revetlo Petty Racing, driven by Ken Adams, the beautiful Boss 302. The cool thing about this class, painted. This is hand painted, just like it was back in the day. You can look at photos, we can look at film from the day, and it just looks exactly like this. The cars have to look and be prepared exactly as they raced in the Trans Am series. Here's a very historic car. Stay on this car. This is the championship winning car. 1970 championship winning car, newly restored Parnelli Jones car, driven by Bill Ockerland. If you look just to your left, that's Trans Am driver, current Trans Am driver, Tommy Dreese in the Jim Hall, Vic Elford Chaparral Camaro. Tons of history here. Beautiful Shelby Mustang. We've got so much history. We're coming through here. The Dan Moore car, Ram Racing, Dallas, Texas. And I love seeing all this hand painted. Look at that, you can see the brush strokes. Jay Biddle is in a car. This was a camera car for the Ford Motor Company. These were the camera mounts. We've got so many great cars. I've got 1 minute on the grid. There's also a Penske Camaro, Sunoco Camaro out there. Mark Donohue's 1968 winning car. But we have 1 minute on the grid. We're gonna have to get out of here. Jonathan, I'm going back to you.
Yeah, Ben, don't get run over. Come back in here. Come back to the safety of the booth, my man. Good job, as always. My thanks to Tony Garcia and Ben Sissel in unison there, quite literally, as we get ready for what is a very special race here at Laguna Seca. As I mentioned, we've got some very special cars. I spent some time with Tommy Dreese this weekend talking about that Camaro, he is actually the owner of that car, and keeps it in his collection in Hollywood, and I think it's one of the first times he's raced it in a while, and I think it's a special time because it is a car. We're thinking about Vic Elford, who only did 7 Trans Am races, but I don't think he finished lower than fourth, and that was the day when the likes of Vic Elford and star drivers were brought in. And Vic Elford, if you don't know his career, an Englishman who came and drove in NASCAR, Formula One, rallying, you name it, sports car racing, and even, of course, Le Mans. Quick Vic, as they called him, and now 85 years of age. And Brian Redman has set up a GoFundMe page to try and help his old mate out. So feel free to look that up and see if you can be part of that. And as part of that this weekend, Tommy Dreese has brought out that 1970 car of his to run, and really delighted he was able to do that. And you can hear that the sound of these cars is absolutely fantastic as they roar through the Monterey Hills. Really, really special. And like I said, with some great stories, and now Ben's back. We'll hear a bit more about. He's always a little bit rushed on the grid to tell you the full story because he's got to try to get it all in. But we'll have a little bit more time on this warm-up lap maybe to talk about some of these special cars. I've just been talking about the Tommy Dreese car, but of those cars out there, you know, like I said, this is the real McCoy. This isn't. I mean, we've got a lot of historic cars out, but these are the actual cars that race.
Yeah, the rules are, and I love this group for that. So we just saw the slime green Sam Posey Challenger go by, and you know, if you know anything about Trans Am racing, the 1970 Trans Am season was crazy with Plymouth, Dodge, Ford, Chevy, AMC, all having factory teams. So many significant cars here this weekend. We pointed out the Parnelli Jones. We saw the Peter Gray car. But just so many great, and then the great thing, just like Trans Am of today, there's kind of like the big factory teams with a lot of backing and money, but then there's also the privateers. But the cool thing about this is the rules with the historic Trans Am group is the cars had to be raced in the Trans Am series from 1966 to 1972. The actual car, the VIN numbers must match. Then they must be set up exactly as they were raced. These cars
when you say
are
that,
impossible to drive.
Well, what do you mean by that?
Same drivetrain, the 305 to 302, you know, cubic inches,
yep.
the correct weights, the right brakes, everything that, there's no technology, no upgrades, nothing like that. The only things that they're allowed to change is any safety features. Some of them wear seatbelts. Some of them didn't quite wear seatbelts back in the day, and the helmets.
I didn't notice.
Other than that, it looks like a time machine.
Yeah, and I noticed in Tommy's car, Tommy Dreese that is, he had the only thing I noticed that was slightly modern was an add-on to the accelerator pedal, just a little bit wider, so that he doesn't miss it, and you know, it's just more what he's used to, sort of thing.
Well, I was with Parnelli Jones at Indy with Bill Aukerland in Parnelli Jones' car. He got to sit in the car, hadn't seen it for 30 years, and he says it's like a glove, like a time machine. As they take the green at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, Jim Haig in that Peter Gray Boss 302 pulls out from Roy Woods in that Javelin, driven by Ken Epsman, as Vic Elford takes the outside in third place in the Chaparral Camaro, driven by Tommy Dreese.
And as the fog rolls in, it's almost like you were back in 1969 or 1970, because look at this sight. Wonderful view here through the Andretti curves. This full field of historic Trans Am gets underway in absolute glory. A beautiful sound as they pass our commentary position and dive now into turn 3 for the first time. A massive field, and from above you can see the fog now starting to roll in a little bit in the distance, but you can imagine what it must have been like with the full grandstand. Sadly now in a modern day pandemic we can't offer you that. But I was looking at a book last night with the grandstands full of what you say. This was the racing of the day, and you talk about race on Sunday, buy on Monday. You couldn't get closer to that, because this was manufacturer racing and pride, bragging rights, you name it. It was all here back in the day.
Yeah, it was, and some of the biggest names in racing started or cut their teeth in the Trans Am series because the cars were so equally yoked. The manufacturers were backing it. They were very tough to drive. Back then, they could pick between Firestone or Goodyear tires. They actually had fuel changes, tire changes sometimes, but if we stay on this shot, we're going to see the Roger Penske, Mark Donahue 1968 Chevrolet Camaro. There it is right there. That car. How cool is it that that car is not in a museum, that the current owner, Tom McIntyre, is out here racing that car, a priceless car in the motorsports history. As we look at these cars come down the front straight there, in fourth place is John Hildebrandt driving a world-famous, the Gray Ghost, the one and only Pontiac Tempest Gray Ghost right there, right behind that Chaparral Jim Hall Vic Elford car driven by Tommy Dreese that we're getting some great shots of right there.
Yeah, and that Jim Hall car, we were talking about it with Tommy, and he is pushing it.
Pass.
Good pass from him. And like I said, he's the owner. He said he was going to go gentle, but I know Tommy too well. He loves his racing. And he said, I just listened to the sound of that car, and it was so beautiful. But he was telling me that what happened was Jim Hall picked up the factory entry, if you will, for Camaro when Penske moved to AMC Javelin, and they did it at the last minute in the hope that Jim Hall or anybody else would not develop a Camaro in time to challenge them. And so it was all a bit cloak and dagger coming into the season. And look at Tommy go.
So Tommy Dreese, who's always racing side by side with Simon Gregg, is now racing side by side with Simon Gregg's dad's car, Peter Gregg, in that Boss 302 driven by Jim Haig.
And look at them side by side as they come up towards the corkscrew, and back goes Haig into the lead at the corkscrew.
Ladies and gentlemen, you just can't get more entertainment and better racing than this historic Trans Am WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. That's the Roy Woods Javelin AMC Breed car, followed by the Parnelli Jones Bud Moore car, driven by Bill Ockerland, the 1970 championship car, and then followed by the car right behind him with that black hood, that Shelby Cobra or Shelby Mustang, was driven back in the day by the guy that wrote the song for the Jackson 5, the I'll Be There. He wrote that song and then was racing in the Trans Am series.
What did you grab to get that note?
You know, I've got my tricks. Look at this right there. If that doesn't look like 1970 with that Javelin and that school bus yellow Bud Moore Mustang going side by side, that was almost the whole season. How cool is that to watch?
Really very cool indeed. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, you know, if you had a 50-year-old book, it would be in a glass case. If you had a 50-year-old watch, no one would wear it. But we have 50-year-old plus cars, and we are racing them hard. I love it. Jeff O'Neill out there in the number 15 in the Ford Boss 302 Mustang, that red and black there. Jeff O'Neill doing a couple of runs today. He's got a Maserati coming out later, but he is a true historic racer, loves his racing. And he had a transmission issue earlier in the weekend, and I went over to see him, and he said, in the Maserati he's racing, but he's got it going again, and he's happy. And he said he was particularly looking forward to this HTA race. So good luck to him as he goes back up the hill in the 15. Fantastic shot this of the Ray Hall Straight.
So many changes for the lead here, so many passes. That's Forrest Straight there in that beautiful red Boss 302 coming over the hill right behind that Javelin, followed by Jay Biddle in that gray Mustang Coupe. Unbelievable shots here we're getting from the drone as Tommy Dreese takes the lead, and he's up there with Ken Adams. Ken Adams in that beautiful Reventlow Ford, and there's Jay Biddle. Jay was with us last weekend at Sonoma, had some transmission issues, but look at that, he's back out here with us in that Ford The Going Thing video. I think that was the camera car for that video. So much fun. Jesse, thank you. Jesse's bringing us our grid sheets. I love it up here.
Top girl. You're right. That interests me. So that when you say it was a camera car, for what reason? For filming movies or promotion?
I think it was Ford The Going Thing. It was a film. Jay was telling me, but for promotional reasons, they would mount like a 16mm camera, film camera up there and go racing.
Oh, those were heavy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that knocked off the balance just a little bit. But again, there's Craig Conley and that beautiful green. You don't see that green very often.
No, it's emerald green.
But again, like I said, in the Trans Am series, you could have cars that were run by the privateers, and just like in the Trans Am of today, look at that, another change for the lead. Ken Adams in that beautiful Boss, and then Hildebrandt coming around Tommy Dreese, the gray ghost around that Chaparral Jim Hall Vic Elford car driven by Tommy Dreese. What a great race, Jonathan, as they go up the hill.
Yeah, they were talking about the front of that car as well, and the sort of plastic it's got into there. That was another innovation that they had for that car. As we look at the 72 coming through shot, that's Steve Link at the wheel.
Steve Link always races. That car always looks like a Concours winning show car. Also races with us in the B sedan, but Steve always comes out with HTA, bringing that beautiful car. We so appreciate that. It's so much fun to watch. Look at these cars that they just roll. You know, they have bad shocks, terrible brakes, way too much power, no power assist anything. They're just really a handful to drive, as we just got a great shot there, Richard Goldsmith in that Sam Posey Slime Green Challenger. And he's actually racing out here with his son in that Rusty Jowett-owned Camaro.
It's interesting you say that, because, you know, that's another part of this story, is they were a handful to drive, but we're talking manufacturers against manufacturers. So they literally brought in ringers like Vic Elford to actually
They had to bring in the best, Parnelli Jones won
Right.
the, 63
Dan
Indy
Gurney,
500,
you name it, Ken
then
Miles.
had to come in here and run this. So everybody who's anybody raced in the Trans Am Series back in that day, including Mario Andretti, as we
Yes.
come up to the Andretti turn with Carmen Cusack, followed by Richard Goldsmith. Look at that green, that slime green Sam Posey, just as it raced.
I'm sure it isn't officially slime green.
I think it is. I think that's what it became. That's what it was being called.
Okay.
And what a beautiful, I love the 77 there.
Mint? How about mint? Can we go with mint?
I don't know. It's a little brighter than mint. If that
Pistachio.
was, if you were having that as your mint chocolate chip ice cream, you think you're going to get some kind of disease.
I'll go with.
It's electric green.
I'll go with pistachio.
I like slime green.
All right. Well, you're the boss.
But look at this great racing. And one thing I love about historic Trans Am is it's just like any racing. There's pack racing. So there's the guys up at the front, and they're going to pass each other. Hard battles, but there's some great mid-pack battles as we're seeing here as they come up. And there's Hildebrand. Look at this. We've had like 9 changes.
I know,
for the
it's
lead
incredible.
As we come down, there goes Ken Epsman there, Forrest, Bill Ockerland, and just the history. Like if you look at it, you picture this in black and white, it's going to look like we were just there back in the day.
Yeah, you may as well. The only thing that wouldn't be in that shot would be that fence.
Yeah.
It'd probably be a wooden fence.
There he goes. There goes it. I really like that car right there.
Oh, that's lovely.
92A. Beautiful stuff. So much fun. That's Dennis Singleton out here. Oh, Steve Link is coming in. Hope it's not any kind of tragic.
Would that be a missing link?
Maybe. The BFG radial tire burden. One thing that's really neat when you get to walk around there, a lot of these, they didn't have wraps back in the day. We didn't wrap vehicles. A lot of these are hand-painted.
Yeah, hand-painted.
And then at the tracks, they would have to rebrush them because somebody might have to change the number. So you can actually see the brush strokes on these cars. And I'm just so glad that these gentlemen, these drivers and ladies, we've got Linda that races out with us sometimes, are out here racing them just as they were in the purest form of motorsports right here. As we look at these guys going hard into Andretti turn, that is the number 83.
I mean, these are the only cars, including our modern-day cars, that are actually making this commentary booth rattle as they go by. It's a wonderful sound. I went to the top of the hill yesterday, and I was listening to a session of theirs, and it's just an unbelievable cacophony.
Music. We could sell a CD of this, I think.
Yeah, you could.
Kevin Sittner and the Costner car right there, the white car. I hope we get some shots of the car that's probably the most, if not the most important car in this field, but one of, is the number 6 blue Penske Hilton Camaro, way at the back, the 1968. I think he won. I think Mark Donohue won 10 out of the 11 races that he entered in the 13-race series. So how about that? How could you imagine in our TA2 for somebody to have won 10 out of 11 races now? And that was happening back in 1968 with Mark Donohue and Roger Penske.
Yep, long before Jimmy Johnson made the 48 a car to be reckoned with. Lance Smith in the 48 here from back in the day, and currently in 17th place at the moment. Wonderful view of the magic of Monterey, the WeatherTech Raceway in glorious splendor through the rainy curve here in our historic Trans Am. And if you like what you're seeing, we'll have another one of these races tomorrow. In fact, that race will be early in the morning, about 11 a.m. You'll be able to see them in their second feature race as part of our group action in SVRA. Delighted to have the historic Trans Am back with us today as the leaders. Now, Tommy Dreese now leading again. So Tommy Dreese on for a victory. I asked him if he could get a podium, and he said, "This is my baby. I own this. I can't ding it," but he said, "I'll try." So he's doing exactly what he said he would do.
Look at this, guys. This is it, the 1968 Mark Donohue, 10 out of 11 first places, 10 wins out of 11 tries. The 11th was a DNF. That is the Mark Donohue car. If you get up close, it is exactly. I know that the owner of this car, Tom McIntyre, who's behind the wheel right now in that beautiful open face helmet, that looks like a time machine.
It does, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah, if we just put some waves in there, it's too high definition, but look at that. It's beautiful. And you got to get up close because he went through painstaking efforts to make sure everything is just as it would. And it was. And if Mark Donohue was alive, he'd get in there and say, it's a time machine.
Well, I was saying earlier, what would Roger Penske think if he saw a race like this?
Well, Tom told me a cool story. They were racing with IndyCar, historic Trans Am, and all of Penske's team, as he rolled to the grid, came out and saluted, stood like a military salute as he rolled by. They all came out and saluted, knowing that the captain, that's his lineage right there. Look at this as they come in to the last lap sign. That's Ken Epsman, followed by Tommy Dreese.
Oh, the race is on.
The race is on. Ken Epsman found something in that Roy Woods beautiful AMC Javelin as Tommy Dreese pilots that Jim Hall, Vic Elford Chevy Chaparral Camaro over that Pontiac of Hildebrandt, followed by the Peter Gregg Boss 302 Bud Moore car driven by Jim Haig. Some great racing here at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, and that's just a beautiful car, that Javelin.
And this is the final lap, and you're right, the AMC Javelin doing the business in the red, white, and black, and being chased hard by Tommy Dreese in the Camaro.
That's red, white, and blue, man. That's America.
It's America, baby. Hey, look, it's not over here. As they come in.
Hildebrandt,
yep, takes second away from Tommy.
Look at that. That is a boat of a car. How is he wheeling that thing around this thing? That is amazing.
Tommy using the power up the hill. Jinx out, but can't do it there. He's got a couple more chances to take it to second. He might just settle for a podium here, but you never know.
Oh, don't count it out. And some of the closest finishes I've ever seen are with this historic Trans Am group. So who can put the power down? You know, these cars, the tires, the brakes, the power, who can put it down at the last turn, because it's going to be a drag race here to the start-finish line at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. Just a few more turns, Jonathan.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful sight to see, and a wonderful way to finish it with the AMC leading the way.
I'm rooting for Tommy, though. Come on, Tommy.
Come on, Tommy. Last turn corner. He's got one more to go, but it's going to be a very close top three here in the HTA, the historic Trans Am.
Around the last
race
turn.
one.
That was close.
And this is going to, whoa, it's very close.
Side by side.
Here we go.
Could be.
He's got him. Hildebrandt's going to take it. Oh, at the last second, Hildebrandt takes it.
Good stuff. And, you know, historic Trans Am never disappoints. Now, don't go away, camera guys, because the mid-pack races to the line are just as interesting.
Yeah.
Here we go. Drew Alcatzer.
Hildebrandt in that Pontiac Tempest GTO, sorry, in that Tempest GTO does the business in the 49. Look at that. Just great.
How did somebody look at that Tempest and think, you know what,
I'll tell you what, I'll race car. Yeah, I'll race it.
That's crazy, but he's still out here. I love it. The Gray Ghost, that's a world-famous race car. Everybody loves it. I love when people turn bricks into race cars. It's just, it's amazing, you know, and to see the amount of talent that must take to go. And we just saw the black Ford Falcon of Mike Eisenberg, and the story there is he would drive his family to the races. It still has the back seats, the seat belts, the interior. He would drive his family of 4 to the Trans Am races and drive them home. That's an optimistic race car driver thinking I'm going to be able to drive this car home with my family.
Well, the fog's rolling in here at Laguna Seca. You wouldn't think about it looking at that shot, but just to confirm the results of that group race, the historic Trans Am, John Hildebrandt taking it at the last minute in the Pontiac Tempest GTO Ghost. Ken Epsman in second place in the AMC Javelin. The Chevrolet Camaro of Tommy Dreese, a part of his collection, and he takes it to the podium at Laguna Seca, and that is going to make him feel very proud. Ken Adams in 4th, Jim Haig, who led early on, in 5th, Bill Auckland in 6th, Forrest Strait in 7th place, Patrick Byrne in 8th position, Andrew Alcazar in 9th position, and Craig Conley in 10th. A little further down, Biddle, Cusack, Carmen Cusack, Dennis Singleton, Richard Goldsmith, Kevin Sitner, Nick DeVitas in 16th place, Lance Smith, Rick Jeffrey, Carl Stein, and Ryan Turi in that Ford Mustang. And a little further down, Jerry Clark, Gary Underwood, Michael Eisenberg. Fantastic racing and fantastic fun. So that concludes our HTA race. More racing to come, though, from Laguna Seca. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back. Join us back at Laguna in a moment.